All right. Welcome to another installment of Man, the negative is hella broke. What can we do to fix it? So, as you can see, I've started to cut pieces out of the background. And I'm going to go back to the background copy, use the selection tool, and see what we can do. For some parts where the crack is not as defined, it may not be the perfect tool for it. So I'm going to hit Command D. And go up to polygonal lasso tool. Just kind of lay down the selection real quick. Now, if you want to modify your selection, go to Select, Modify. In this case, I want to contract it a little bit. So I'm going to bring it in by 6 pixels. So I'm going to undo that in history so that you can see A, B. Brought it in. I think we could probably bring it in even more. So select, modify, contract. I'm going to say 10 pixels. There we go. If you want to do any other kind of fine touch-up work, just grab that brush in the quick mask. We just don't want to take too much information from one slice if we need it in another. Okay, my brush is at 100. This looks pretty good. Okay. So Q in, Q out, Shift Command J to put that on another layer. So I'm going to zoom back out, get my my object selection tool, sample all layers is on, Shift Command J. And as I'm going along, I'm just turning off the layers so it's a little easier to keep it organized. So you can see in there that it's selected around these different pots. But I think I'm going to hit Command H for a second because I wanted to hide the marching ants. There isn't a break where that is. So I'm going to hit Command H to show the marching ants again, Q to go into quick mask, and then X to add this to my selection. Q in, Q out. Let's see what we got. All right. There we go. It's got a little bit of extra step right here. We can hold down the object select, hold down the option, just kind of subtract. And that if that's not working, magic wand will option click inside of that extra marquee, sucks it right to the shape, background copy, Shift Command J. Let's turn that on. So you can see how we're going to go around and use this tool to make all of our major selections. Oops, wrong tool. Object select tool. I accidentally hit the frame tool. Not bad. I'm going to hit Q. Get that brush. Make it a little bigger. Bring this into Q in, Q out. Shift Command J. Oop, make sure you're on the right layer. And I'm going to pause this while I continue to do the rest, and then we'll be back to start the retouching. Okay, so we have all of our pieces on different layers. Turn all of our layers on. And now we begin what is probably the most important part of this restoration. You gotta line it up. And this can save us a lot of time. So with the move tool, I'll just select layer. Let's go through and we want to line up. We want to line up these lines. Take a look at, right, any of our people. Right, let's line them up here. Line up their shoulders. Now some of the edges we might be able to get a little bit cleaner by switching the order of the layers. Now notice we can really get pretty close. With that hat. And that looks pretty good. And things are still like lining up, which is good. All right, let's go in here. Again, the most important things are that we line up obvious lines like this and heads. So we'll put this in here. Now we know her hand is a little damaged. I'm not too worried about it because we have a nice clean hand on the other side. So line that up. If you've got some really ugly borders, you can add a layer mask and get a brush, go along the side. Right, and clean that up. Maybe on the other piece too. So maybe on the piece above it. So we can always grab layer mask and get rid of some of that black. It'll make our retouching a little easier. Only takes a second or two. If you take the time in the beginning of this, get it aligned and as clean as possible. Get the pieces together as clean as possible. You will have a much easier time putting this together. So I'm not going to do all this in real time. I think that is not super exciting, but I am going to show you little things like that. Right, and see how much better that seam is now? Don't worry about the outside so much. See this weird, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the arms. I'm concerned about her head. Fine with that. I need her legs to line up. Right. So once you've got the big stuff aligned, like the curb. Okay. That is going to be All right, make sure that your lamps are lined up. So you're going to spend some time making sure everything is as lined up as possible. Use layer masks if you need to on the edges. Don't worry about this piece right here. We can just copy something else. And if you have some spots like this where some of your selections were soft, what you can do is go to layer, new fill layer, solid color, hit OK, and then sample that dark brown, hit OK, and then move it to the background. And that fills in some of those edges that have some varying opacity. So make it a little easier to line all that up. So that is your next step, lining it up as much as possible. Keep in mind, this over here is the subject. This is what is going to be the best lit. So this is where the subject, the viewer will look, okay? Probably right around this area. So that's going to be the most important to retouch. So on the next video, we will have this aligned. We'll have layer masks on the layers that need it. And we will start our retouching. And we're going to work with the retouching in quadrants to make it a little easier to keep track of, to make sure you don't over edit. All right, see you there.